south of Scruffy.
Thanks for doing this. I'm glad Sam's here this time.
Yeah.
I feel like we should tell people that we did this once before, but Sam wasn't here, and we felt like we had to do it with him.
Are you our security blanket?
You know, sometimes I have to keep my own security. You know, you job security.
I feel like you're probably a security blanket for a lot of people.
I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Sam's like a weighted blanket for me.
There you go.
It feels like you know, if Sam's here, I feel like I'm getting a big hug from somewhere.
I get that. Yeah.
I do what I can.
I feel the love too.
How's it going?
Good. Really good.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Your husband was the first ever guest on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And now here you are, the last.
Oh, let's hope not.
Yeah.
Never. I adore your podcast, so no.
Thank
it's
you.
Not going anywhere.
Well, keep listening. Spread the word.
I will.
Get it out there. What's the Pitchwire thing? What's happening with Pitchwire these days? What is it?
That's a great question. Today, we find ourselves in what I would probably best describe as two different departments. One audio and podcast production, and one marketing and public relations. Now, with the caveat that we are a young company. We're not young, but the company's young. So it does feel like we're in those early days of, like, as people like to say, pivoting, constant pivoting. And especially with a pandemic that just we're still going through. That was a really big transition time for us.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it like before? What were you doing? Because you guys started it. How long ago did you start Pitchwire?
So we started Pitchwire, I guess technically 2 years ago. But on the marketing PR side, I went out on my own about 4 or 5 years ago. Okay. So I went out on my own to start marketing and public relations primarily. And then through the years, it evolved and the services evolved. And so it grew and grew and grew. And then when Matt went out on his own, he was offering audio and podcast production. And then our clients on our team on the marketing side needed those services, wanted those services.
Needed your services.
Needed Matt's services.
Oh,
yeah. So we
you're
started seeing like, okay, they could do podcasts. They want to do podcasts.
Mm.
They have an appetite for that. They need custom music. Mm. So we ultimately decided about 2 years ago to just merge everything. And it really was funny in hindsight because I'm like, oh, we're like a married couple who run a company. That was never intended, obviously. I mean, we made the choice to take everything together, but we weren't like, we're going to run a company together. It was very much like in response to what our clients were needing at the time. And then we found ourselves in a situation where it just made the most sense to put everything together for efficiency, for like cross-pollination of ideas, for our teams to work better together and closer together. Yeah. And then everything just lives together under that brand name, and that like breathes and works really well for our clients.
Are there any other companies that offer the same service kind of offering as you guys? Because it seems like, I don't know, it seems like a kind of poly-facing world that kind of looks in, you know. Yeah,
that's a great question. Direction. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that there are agencies who do marketing and PR and audio, but we also place music with like Discovery and film. Like we will license music, custom produce music with Sam and other people, really great composers that we work with who produce music, and then we place it for TV and film and could be podcast, any kind of commercial use. And that's what Matt set out to do.
Right.
So that arm... So I don't know. I guess that's what's like. I know that there are other agencies who do both, like marketing and PR, and then podcast production. That does like.
But they probably do a lot of other stuff on top of that.
Yeah. And then, but I don't know that I know of another company who does like audio specifically and audio placement, and then merge with a rather traditional PR group. You know. Yeah.
What made you guys decide to start it? Was it that you were noticing that your clients needed what Matt could do, or was it Matt noticing that his clients needed what you could do?
Yeah, both. Like, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was... So he actually originally worked for PR agencies, marketing agencies.
Yeah, he worked at Design Sensory when I started. That's how I met him.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's how I met him.
Yeah, so he worked there, and he worked for some other agencies, Tom Briss before that, and then another agency, John Chattanooga. And so he has a campaign background, campaign development, marketing background too, and BD, business development. So I guess he also at some point decided that he was going to start writing music and placing music in the commercials that were being produced.
Yeah.
And they were nice enough and kind enough to let him do that.
It's probably good for them, too, to have somebody in-house that already is familiar with the account that is hungry to produce some stuff and get it out there. It's probably less expensive for them because he's already there. And it's a client who's familiar, or it's a vendor who's familiar with the brand already.
Yep. I mean, bingo, like all of those reasons. It just was a good fit. And he was hungry. He was like very classic example of somebody who was like, I'm going to do this thing no matter what. He'd been writing music and composing music and making music for half his life and just decided I'm going to make it work into my day job.
Yeah.
And they were nice enough to let him do that. So that started it. And then he eventually decided to transition out and go out on his own, so to speak. Although all of those agencies we still work with,
Yeah.
So
That's good. So the companies that he used to work with are now clients?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, same for both of us. We've been really lucky in having people who have stuck by us as we've grown, which I think has really been key to our success. And I think it is for most people. Those relationships are really, really important. And Matt's fantastic at building really genuine relationships.
Right.
I always say about him that he has been like networking before he realized it was networking. He's one of those classic people that are like, I just don't think about it like that, but that is what's happening.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's my best friend.
Yeah.
But I think Sam thinks he's his best friend too. So
yeah, I hope he's my best friend too.
I think it's what it feels like.
Yes, yeah, he is a beautiful person who does a great job with that.
Well, also on both of your sides, it seems like a testament to how important relationships are on top of the chops. Like if everybody can do the job, it's the relationship that really is king in that situation.
Totally
people
agree.
that you trust, people that you know are going to take care of you, are more important than somebody who's a hotshot rock star everything.
Yeah.
That you would rather not work with for the first time. When you already have a relationship with, whether it's PR, music, whatever.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, we really, we waited long enough in our careers. We're not young. We're in our late 30s. So, I mean, I guess when we went out, we were mid 30s, early 30s. But, I mean, that's not young, and especially in the startup world and the entrepreneur world.
Right.
Most of these kids are like 20 years old out there.
Yeah, 24-year-old CEO of a $5 billion company is not.
It's very common these days,
yeah.
and which I think is great.
Yeah, I think so
but
too.
For us, that wasn't what we did,
Right.
and I think that it's really easy to be like, oh, we should have started sooner, which is not true. But at the same time, it's kind of like having a baby. Like if you'd had a baby earlier, it wouldn't have been the baby you got,
Right.
Yeah. So for me, I don't, it's so easy to say that. Like, yes, of course, I'd love to like buy back that time and like soak it all into a business, because when you start, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. I don't care who you are. You have just no idea the struggle, the wins, the energy that it's going to take. So I would never tell somebody like get as much time as you can toward that. But at the same time, oh my gosh, like those relationships with those companies, they let me do things that I never could have done on my own so soon.
Yeah.
Like I started my career in the nonprofit world, which was hugely beneficial in the renewable energy sector. And then I went into the corporate world working for Shaw Industries, which was
Flooring?
Yes, flooring.
We worked for them.
Did you?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
we did a shoot for one of their brands, Anderson Tough Techs.
Yes.
That they had acquired, purchased, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of their millennial line.
It's a wonderful line. It's a very high quality, beautiful. Sorry, y'all. Like everybody listening is going to be like, let's geek out on flooring for a second. Anderson Tough Techs produces some of the best, most beautiful hardwood floors in the industry.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
carpet.
They're in Georgia, right? Dayton?
Yeah. Dalton, Georgia.
Dalton, yeah, not Dayton. Where every carpet company in America is.
Yes. Yeah. It's the carpet capital of the world. Yeah. We actually still work with Shaw Floors through another agency called HL Strategy.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember Matt showed up with an Anderson Tough Techs backpack to a shoot one time. I was like, how do you
Where'd
know
you get
those
that?
guys?
Yeah. His dad's in the flooring industry.
Oh,
That's how
gotcha.
I got into it.
Really?
Yes.
And,
yes.
And you worked there as on staff?
Yes.
At Shaw?
I worked for Shaw in the consumer-facing PR department. And I did media. They let me do way more than they probably should have. They were extremely kind. I was young, and they let me do influencer marketing, media relations. Like they were doing so many cool things. The other thing about them is I was exposed to agencies who we were working with, and
You were the client.
yes. Yes,
That's
and
important experience.
It is, because so we were on what they call the brand side. I was on the brand side working for the brand. And those agencies were amazing. I mean, literally amazing. They were so passionate. They were so smart. They were so savvy. And they were who I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And they taught me a lot. But yeah, we were doing some really cool things. And they also started letting me do a lot of public speaking, which was important at the time.
Like what?
Just
What's that like?
Mainly, I loved it, but I mean, I'm not good at it, but I loved it. You know,
you're good at it.
It was so fun. But I did a lot with the sales team. So you'd need to go, because as you can imagine, their sales department is tremendous. It's nationwide. So you'd need to go before the sales team or just a corporate group and talk about your marketing strategy or campaigns coming up, and really to sell them in, because they're ultimately the ones who have to go out into the field and sell the product.
Yeah.
And so if marketing does their job well, they're selling to sales. Oftentimes, because you want them to know, especially with them, they're B2B, so they're selling to the retailer,
right?
And so you want to make sure that they're your customer facing outlet.
Yeah, an extension of you. Because you don't get the customers, they do.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And so if you do your job well, you are actually selling to the salesperson, in that capacity.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So all this kind of comes together. All of your guys' different experiences that are in a lot of different worlds came together to start Pitchwire, and both of you guys have a lot of experience in a lot of different ways. It's pretty nuts to think about the services that you guys
and now our team, our team's growing on both sides.
Really?
Yeah, and that's been really magical to see, and we benefit from their collective wisdom and their collective experience, which is, priceless. Yeah.
Well, how do you grow during a pandemic?
I don't know. It's been insane.
Yeah. Did you though?
Yes, we doubled. So we doubled, across the board. We doubled the team. We doubled the workbig
Why? How?
So for us, and I always we've had some massive failures that I'm happy to talk about. Yeah, because I'm a big fan of what they like to say. I didn't coin this term, but fail forward. Yeah. I'm always looking for ways to fail forward. So I'm happy to talk about that. But one of the things that happened for us is that we had that first year been reaching out to people to spark new ideas around mainly audio production, like podcast production. And so there were a couple clients who were really interested in that. We were already doing some of that work with clients. Like I said, we grew because they needed it and wanted it, while at the same time going, hey, by the way, if this is something you want, we could do online conferences. We can do audio production. This is in our wheelhouse. This is what we're good at.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened, and we were actually on vacation with another family.
I remember this. You guys were in Florida or something?
Yeah, we were in the Keys.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Islamorada, with babies. And I had a 2-year-old, so Emery's 2, and so we merged everything about the time she was born.
Wow.
Yeah. It was nuts. And when people say I never would have done it if I knew how hard it was going to be, I now understand that. But there's no way to know that when you start. And I'm so glad I did. I would both do it again, and I'd also be just warning you, let's chat. So
you're in Florida and the pandemic starts.
Yep. Exactly.
With a brand new company.
With a brand new company that we were trying to grow.
Yeah.
And we started getting calls from customers being like, what the heck are we going to do? And we've been chatting about a podcast. Let's do a podcast. And they were quick. And we work with really savvy customers. Yes, all of them. All of them are really good. You don't make a company successful without being smart and asking the right questions. And I'm thankful that we really do work with some really, really smart people. And the minute they just know how to pivot really quickly.
And a podcast is where they went?
They went, yeah. And I'll use Pump Spotting was one of them who called, and they normally take an RV. They're just amazing. The founder's amazing. And I'll also brag on Calavana's Kitchen in a minute. But they called because they were, they normally take an RV out on the road. It's an app that they produce for breastfeeding moms and nourishing families, really, because they're expanding into that too. Yeah, so it's an app where you can get on, and it helps you during that really difficult time, challenging time.
Yelp for safe places to breastfeed?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you're so good. You must be in marketing.
I'm not, but I always thought that'd be good for a clean restroom app.
Yeah.
People who want
That's a really good idea. Want a clean bathroom on the road?
Restroom app, CRAP, CRAPP.
Yes.
Yeah,
we'll chat later.
It's a $1 billion idea.
Yeah, glad we talked. I can retire in a couple of years.
What's the name of the company again? Pump Spotting?
That was Pump Spotting, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a cool name for a company.
Yeah.
My mind went to gas at first,
Yeah.
Chest pump. But now it makes sense.
Boob pump.
Boob pump, breast pumps.
Yeah.
Familiar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for women who are on the road and need to find a clean, safe place to pump, if you just need support, there's a lot of you can even talk to a lactation consultant.
Wow.
They're fantastic.
That's cool.
Yeah. So being the savvy person they are, the founder called during that time and was like, we normally go out on the road on an RV called Barb and talk to people in person, talk to women in person.
Right.
We can't do that right now. Let's do a podcast.
Gotcha. So you guys had to figure out a way technically to a workflow that worked, and did you send them packets of gear and stuff like that?
We did. So with different people, we do different things. With her, we did we will absolutely send in. This is the mic to buy. This is the gear to buy. We record it so it sounds really nice and crisp and clear. And right now we're recording, and sometimes we come in person and record. That's what we did before the pandemic. And right now we're doing it all on a Zoom, essentially.
Yeah.
It's different from person to person. Sometimes some of it is still live. But.
Does the audio quality diminish when you do it on Zoom and all that?
So, no. Well, yes and no. I mean, but we do have software to help clean up what we capture.
Yeah, what you capture. Yeah. So it all goes through a mix.
Mm-hmm. All of it is heavily edited. Yeah, to remove, to make it sound really smooth and beautiful.
I've been nervous about doing Zooms, and fortunately,
I don't
people have been cool to come over and still do it. We've, of course, tried to do everything possible to be safe and make people comfortable at the same time.
Yeah.
I get tested all the time for work, not to say that that's a, end all be all, but people have been good about coming over, sitting on the other side of a piece of glass 6 feet away and doing it. But a lot of people have taken a hit to their podcast because they either aren't willing to want to go the Zoom route, or the quality is not what their listenership was used to before.
Okay.
And so they kind of miss that. But on the other side of that, there's also if you listen to Mark Maron talk about it, he'll tell you that there's some really special things that have come out of the Zoom.
I haven't heard. What did he say? I love him.
What did he say? The ritual of when somebody comes over, you came over, we talked for 10 minutes, that's all gone. It's out the window.
I totally
they're trying to do they're trying to figure out if the camera works, if all that works. And there's it's less guarded.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have their assistant waiting outside going like this. It's time, let's go. It's time to.
Yeah.
So I think it's a less guarded experience. People are in a comfortable space when they're talking to you. They're not in a brand new space.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that for him was a plus.
Yeah.
To hear him tell it.
That's interesting.
To the point where I think he almost prefers it.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things have changed. It's good to hear that that's one of them because it just allows people to reach more people easier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you can, you don't have to wait till the next time. I don't know. Tim Allen is in town from LA and wants to come over and sit down. He's in his bonus room,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a really comfortable space. Yeah.
You can get anybody. So you watch the names on some people's podcasts the star factor of the people that are on their podcasts are going up because it's not that hard to get a hold of them anymore, to get an hour from them anymore, especially if they're actors or whatever, not working as much. It makes pretty good sense. So when you guys started, the pandemic happens. It's almost a blessing for you guys because people are starting to look toward podcasting as a way to reach their captive audience now.
Exactly. So it was podcasting and it was any type of audio production. So if you needed a commercial, if you needed some sort of online component of conferences, we were able to produce those too. So I mean, for us, it was helpful. Now, we were small, right? So it's a little bit different for us. But, for us, it's been wonderful. But I will say before that, and I think Matt may have even mentioned this, but we originally set out, we had our very first big, giant fail, right out of the gate.
What was that?
We originally started Pitchwire with the idea that it would be an online platform in which you could license music directly from the site.
So like a music bed or what is it, Soundstripe?
Yep.
Some of those subscription service.
Exactly. Yeah. Subscription service or just
So you're going to build your own library.
Yep. Well, so we already have a library.
Oh.
And that grows and grows and grows. And now we produce for Discovery and other platforms. But that was where we wanted to produce something that was online accessible. And that
was that
really
the original
quickly,
business model?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so we produced an entire website. It's actually our current website, but there was a component of it, and it totally was built under this infrastructure to function as an online platform where you could buy and purchase and create some sort of subscription service through it. And we really, really quickly realized that just wasn't the right place for us at that time.
It's so I don't know how Soundstripe makes any money. I think I pay them $300 a year to use any music I want for any project that I work on, which is like, how do you compete in that marketplace?
Right.
And how are these artists getting paid too?
Yep.
You know, it seems like not a lot of bang for your buck. I will say some music that I have used in some, shorts that I've done, films that I've done or whatever, I'll hear it on a broadcast TV spot.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, sweet. They finally got paid.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Because that license is more expensive.
Is it? Yeah.
Depends on where you place it. Yeah.
Right. That's how our model was too. Like you were at different levels and different uses determine the price.
Yeah.
So
what happened to the pivot there right off the bat?
I mean, it was an investment, certainly, in building that out.
I'm sure it was exorbitantly expensive to build a website like that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like as bad as it could have been, but we've always been smart with where we take calculated risks, I would say. So it wasn't like we weren't willing to do that. And we still look for opportunities to invest in things. And I don't frankly mind if they fail, as long as we're failing forward. Yeah. Like we're learning from it and we're growing and there's purpose behind it. And that was a classic example of a situation in which, it just became abundantly clear that you need to sink a lot of time and effort into that, because there's a lot, the market is really infiltrated and we didn't really see a spot where the money and income was clear.
Right.
And so at that point you have to make a call on whether you're going to continue to put resources into it and sink resources into it. And time is a big resource,
sure,
not just money. Or are we going to look elsewhere? And Matt had discussions with a couple different people, and it was just like, this is not, I wouldn't do it, and yeah, it's funny because like we made that call really quickly.
That's good.
Because we didn't have time. We didn't have time otherwise to continue down that path. Well, thankfully, like demand was coming in on through other platforms.
Right.
And that was part of it too. We were like, well, we want to do these other things and we want to go where we know it's going to be lucrative, not just from a money standpoint, but also from a time and sensitive and like personal standpoint. Because we went out on our own, like I said before, at an age where it's personal. It is not just to make money. And so if we're not doing what we want to be doing, what's the point?
Right.
So
you had jobs.
Yes, exactly.
You left a job. You left a good one.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So we decided to move away from that. And then, but I will say, like, we got a website out of it. They did such a great job. We're really happy. And I don't know, I'm one of those people where I'm like, no, and I'm learning this with age, and I still sort of like backtrack sometimes. I'm a really, really big fan, especially when you go out on your own, that it's never a no and it's never a closed door. So Matt's a little more like, we probably won't revisit that. I don't know that we will either. But I would just say like never say never, because who knows? Like our library continues to grow. We continue to work with really talented musicians who may want to be part of that. And there may be a place in a time where that library needs to reach more people and it could live there. I highly doubt it. But, I just feel like at this point, what I've learned, if anything, is like it's just never totally over.
Gotcha. So that part of it seems like it took a turn and started to become something. Yeah. The music side.
Yeah.
But what about the side that you brought to it? The PR side.
It's grown a lot, and and it continues to grow, especially with our team. We made a decision, I guess, like maybe a year ago. No, maybe it's been 2 years ago, but we went into digital advertising too. And that has been an area of growth for us. The tricky part is with PR marketing. I come from a media relations background, along with a lot of writing, like intensive writing for, I'd call it probably ghost writing for like CEOs and chairmen and like whoever needs content.
But
that's my background.
Doesn't know how to put it.
Well, they normally know how to do it. They just may not have the time, or they need somebody to focus on it, and they're close to
and nitpick it and make it perfect.
Yeah. And then sometimes people like rewrite it and some people read it verbatim. So it just depends on who you are and how much time you have probably. But that is what I would call traditional, right? We've been writing since the dawn of time. And it has become, through the years, of course, communications, like, it's just hard not to touch things. You know, like if you have a client who wants to reach audiences and sell a thing or a service, whatever it may be, your job just can't stop and end with one thing, especially in the marketing world. Yeah,
it's tough because if you have a client that wants to do something, wants to grow, wants to spend money doing that, it's hard to say no to them.
Yes.
It's easier to grow your team with people that, you know,
that you trust,
right. and that are competent.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, a lot of these people too, over the years, I mean, when I started working, it was in, like I said, it was a nonprofit renewable energy advocacy, and which is a great place to start, by the way, with a nonprofit, because you have to do everything. You're not afforded like you are at a corporation to do just one thing. And so I was doing social media, Google ads when it like first started, you know, everything. And so for me, it's always been, not that I'm an expert in every single thing, which is why we hire and work with experts, but I'm aware of what these tools can do for a brand. And so I always like to think really broadly instead of one thing, one service, one tactic. What is the strategy? What are the objectives? What are your goals? And then what are the right tactics to get there? And these days there just isn't one. It's not, you know, people are being, we're reaching people in so many different effective ways. And you've got mail, and you've got online, and you've got email, and you've got ads, and you just can't, everything has to work really nicely together because it builds that brand placement, that brand awareness needs to come in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I think that's what's tough for people, especially companies that are growing that need to get their brand out there. They don't know how. Like I see it with this podcast all the time. Like I want to get it in front of more people.
Yeah.
And I understand that is there's not one way to do that. And depending on who what your demographics are, there's different tactics that you have to, you know, deploy to get that kind of stuff done.
Yep.
You know, people laugh at, you know, direct mail as a tactic to reach customers, but for the right client base, it's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I've been preaching that since we moved away from it, that there's a time and a place for it.
Right.
And you better believe that when I walk to my mailbox, I've got longer between picking up my mail and walking back to my house than I do reading an email.
Right.
So, you know,
or scrolling by something with your thumb that, you know.
Yes. Or like listening to a podcast. Yeah. I mean, like all of those things, they take time, and when you're in the like digital mindset, it's just so quick. So it's not for everybody. No, I wouldn't like recommend every single client use a mailer, but for a lot, it is a nice,
still a viable tactic.
Yeah, it is.
It's interesting. So what else happened? Are you guys in this space now where you feel like things have settled out and the mission is clear and the purpose is clear? No. Good.
So I would say it's a lot more clear, but I also would say that, I mean, like I can clearly say this is what we do. These are our services. This is what we set out to do. But I'm also aware that we're 5 years in and we are constantly looking for new ways. As the brands evolve, we will evolve too. So I don't know what that holds for us.
Right. Just keep saying yes, it seems like.
Yeah. As long as I feel comfortable doing it and we're having a good time, it's a yes. Now, I think we do have to be careful that we are staying true and giving ourselves time to do the things we set out to originally do. But so far, so good.
We run into that with Pop Fizz. It's like our clients come to us. They know they want video. They know that they need, and I'm talking about like a B2B environment.
Yeah.
Where they know they need something. They know they need something for YouTube or on television or whatever it is. And they're like, well, while you're doing this, can you design a logo for us? It's like, I want to say yes. I want to offer you that because we have this great working relationship. But like, there reaches a point where we just kind of have to say, you know,
there's not people out there doing. Yeah,
there's people out there who are better at it.
Yeah,
we don't want to, you know, we don't want to wade, you know, we don't want to, and we also don't want to create any kind of friction with the people that already do that. that hire us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%
So there's that part too
understand.
of not like, I don't know, I guess you could say like cannibalizing your client base by taking work from them.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I tend to call that like playing nice in the sandbox. You know,
Yeah.
it's like it's really important, and the more brands you're working with, it becomes more important.
You got to know when to say that's out of my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I had a good question for you.
Go for it.
You guys both kind of cut loose of, I won't say corporate America, but the real, you know, sure thing jobs kind of around the same time and started the company together. That had to be scary.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of leap of faith was that? And like, how do you financially set yourself up for that?
Yeah.
To where you've got some operating capital and you're not going to, and you don't have to have business right away.
Yeah. So we, as you all know, as I've mentioned it before, really, I'm very, very passionate about like personal finance.
Yeah.
And that moves beyond just our personal family and just a real interest in growing awareness with women particularly, because it tends to be the male who manages all the money, which is fine. There you go. Good. I think it's less and less common. Yeah. Honestly, it's probably less and less common, but it is an area where I feel like women aren't always part of the conversation traditionally. So, you know, to whatever extent I'm able to help with that, I like to try to.
Right.
And it doesn't really matter if it's a woman or a man, but, you know. So personal finance was interesting to me. I guess I don't know when Warren Buffett, like, when wasn't he on my radar? Like, he's on everyone's radar for in business at all. But he owns Shaw Industries.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a Berkshire company. And
Clayton Homes too, right?
Yep, and Clayton Homes. Yeah, and Pilot.
And Pilot. I didn't know.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah. So I decided I wanted to invest some money, and then saw that I basically went to Warren Buffett. I Googled. I was so young. I was like 24 years old. I was like, what do I do? What do I invest in? And at the time, and he still says this today, invest in a mutual fund that tracks and follows the S&P 500.
Yeah.
It just holds a lot of different securities that will match it. And I did that, but then I also started investing in some separate stocks as well, which to whatever extent you have an appetite for, I recommend as well. Recognizing that you may lose that money and you just have to be ready for that, you know. But that's all to say that that's always been it's been a passion of mine since my early 20s. And I do think that set us up in a situation where we could afford to take a risk.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that we didn't need the business, because we certainly did.
Right.
But it put us in a position where we could generally sleep well at night.
Didn't need it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like it's nerve-wracking no matter what. I also think it's a little bit inevitable. Like, if you know yourself, you know, like if you're one of those people who's going to go out on their own and start their own business, you're going to do it no matter what. I do tend to recommend that you just be as frugal as possible.
Yeah.
As life allows you, you know.
Yeah.
So
makes good sense. And I think that, you know, in situations like that, financial security frees you up to where you can worry about other stuff. You're not worrying about money at the time. You can worry about really growing your business.
Exactly. I mean, we had two, like, I look back at it and I'm like, we did that the same year we had our second child. That was crazy. You know, I'm pretty sure it was I think it was when we had our, anyways, it was a very challenging time, but it was also really beautiful, you know, like we were taking a risk together. I went out on my own first. I think that was inspiring to Matt. I think he was like more, and he was doing more and more music. And so, and he was, you know, that was growing on the side. Like he's always been willing to come home and work until midnight. And I've always given him the space to do that, as he's given me the space to do what I wanted to do. And I will say this, I wanted to start a business, and I still do. I still probably will. You know, I hope I'll start many businesses in my lifetime. It's far from over. But I wanted to start a business around that time. And I remember going for a run where I do all my thinking like a lot of people do. And I was like, I could do this. I could do this. And I even like called some suppliers to talk about a necklace for teething babies. Like all of it was a ripoff, and it wasn't something I wanted. And if I believe in anything, is that you should believe in your product.
Yeah. People
say customers should come first. I would like to adjust that perspective a little bit. Your product is where your inspiration and your passion and your love comes from.
Yeah.
And then serving your customers through that is where you get to keep doing it, and you get to keep tweaking it, and you get to keep making sure that your customer, it's needed and it serves them. They play together nicely, but I'm a very big firm believer that the more passionate you are about your product and the more you believe in it, the more likely you are to have success. Everything is a commodity until someone decides it's not, you know. And this is a commodity. This is my diamond. It's a rock.
Yeah.
Someone decided it was special enough to be a symbol of my love.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Exactly.
So that I could not come up with what I wanted to do, what I was willing to put and suck time and energy into, which is a big deal for me. I have 2 babies. I'm a mom. Time is everything to me.
Yeah.
And I was on this run, and I thought of everything and people and products and things, and I'd gone down this path, and I was like, I just don't know what it is. And it occurred to me that my product is my husband. He loved music.
Yeah.
It's not my husband as much as it is the music. But he had that drive, and he had that product, and it just became abundantly clear to me that that was the right path for me at that time.
Makes good sense.
Yeah. So I came home and told him this.
You're my product,
You're my product.
sir.
Yeah. And, you know, it wasn't like that. The merging of the businesses would have happened no matter what.
You
but
think?
I think, I do. I do because I think, God, just with his marketing background and my marketing background, it was kind of inevitable, but we didn't really realize that until later. But I did decide at that time that if he was willing to put his time and energy and like blood, sweat, and tears into that, I'd always supported it, but I was more about it than ever because I think I saw really clearly that I wasn't coming up with the product I loved, and he knew what it was, and I could sell it. I could sell it.
Yeah.
So I did. You know, I sold it to our customers who loved that ability to reach their clientele in a new, beautiful way that told stories, that created engaging, gorgeous music. It's content that he loves and he's passionate about. So for us at that time, with limited resources, limited time, it checked all the boxes. So
you said you'd come back to Kalamata's Kitchen. What's that?
Oh, yes. Okay, I'm so glad you said that. So Kalamata's Kitchen is...
I've heard of it. Is it like a YouTube show or something like that?
Well, so they do video content. They are a brand that was created through the lens of a character and stories to help kids try new foods, to experiment new cultures, to adventure with food.
I know about this, and not from you guys. I know about it from somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, they're growing. And
was it a book first?
Yes.
Okay.
It was books that were self-published. By Sarah Thomas and Derek Wallace, and it's just beautiful. The character is gorgeous. The color is gorgeous. The mission is gorgeous. They just are doing everything right. And what I was going to say about them was that just the pandemic was a really challenging time. It still is for a lot of people. And they were one who signed 2 partnerships through that pandemic, and they're just one of those examples that are very inspiring, so I like to mention them.
What do you mean
they signed with Imagine Kids and Family during that time, and they started a partnership with Chobani.
Oh wow.
So they just didn't stop, and I'm really lucky to be surrounded by companies who are constantly willing to, they just don't blink. I really believe this. Like, I know it was daunting and it probably didn't feel like it to them at the time because I remember talking to them, but they moved so quickly and you just don't have time. And they took advantage of the opportunity by going, okay, we can't do this. They were actually doing tours at the time and we were doing media relations with them. for live tasting events for kids. So they would go into a city and they would hire, they didn't hire them because the chefs love them so much, but the chefs would come and create a dish for the kids, and they'd do a live tasting event for kids.
Oh, cool.
So that couldn't happen.
Right.
But they moved really, really quickly, and those were two partnerships that came out of them thinking more broadly, smarter, and faster. So, you know, a lot of bad things have come. I mean, it's extremely sad, everything that's that what people have gone through over this past year, but the bright lights are stories like that.
Yeah. What'd you guys do for them?
We did media relations for them. We've done and we've done a little bit of video content too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's a kid's book to start off with. Man, this sounds perfect.
Yeah.
I need to get my kids to eat new foods. One of them, the older one, she's picky now.
Yeah. So
And who'd have thought a character?
I'm like happy to talk about them because they're so fun. But those live tasting events, Sarah likes to tell the story of parents coming up to her. I'm going to butcher it. It's not my story to tell, so I apologize ahead of time to her. But parents come up to her and say, like, oh, my kid won't try this, you know. And then she looks over at them and they've got like beet juice like pouring down their face and they're trying new things. I mean, that's what beautiful products do, right? They help you. They help people come to something, or it's one of the things they can do is help people come to an idea in such a unique and such a different way that they think about it differently, and they do that for kids.
So you said they signed a partnership with Chobani. Is that like they put the guy on the box?
Yeah.
They put the olive on the.
Yeah,
on
they
the...
actually produce. God, they're so
they
smart.
license the character. Is that kind of how it works?
Not necessarily. Not that they wouldn't, but in this scenario, they were actually producing a guide, an adventure guide, where the kids could read the guide, and it was a Chobani and Kalamata's Kitchen partnership project, in which they could be at home and go like do these fun things, like go on a scavenger hunt, and they would check it off. It was basically like a work template. They've done other things with Chobani too. That was just one of the ones that was like so specific to the pandemic, and it was meeting a need. You know, I mean, we talk about this all the time, but like when you put it into action, what does it look like? It looks like this. Your kid's at home, you're having a difficult time, you're exhausted, you're stressed. A brand says, here, let me give them something to do. Yeah. You don't have to buy anything. Go into your pantry and look for these products, you know? So
that's super cool. Did you feel like when the pandemic first happened that there was like this mad scramble for like, what the hell are we going to do? And we have to react to this right now because it's only going to be around a month, right?
Yes.
So we got to figure it all out right now.
So we also do like corporate communications. And I think it is more about both relationship building, risk mitigation. It's managing communications through the lens of the corporate perspective. And a lot of that has to do with risk. A lot of that has to do with company objectives, purpose, mission, vision.
Optics.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's it could be internal communication. It could be communication through your C-suite or your leadership.
Gotcha.
So at the time, we had our eye on just what was going on in the news, maybe a little bit closer than some of our clients did, depending on who they were, right? So I think a lot thought that they would get on the road back to doing what they were doing
sooner than reality.
Yeah. So we had a couple little, like, sometimes you have to let people come to things on their own. That was just one that was a really good example of that. Like, we were really close to seeing just the news happening and how people, it was just a really scary time. And I think that, it was so hard to digest. No, I don't think that they thought it would be what it was.
Yeah. But you guys were forward thinking. You were well positioned to go ahead and come up with a strategy for these guys.
Yes. I mean, I think like because of the work I've done with corporations, my instinct is always to fall on the side of caution. And to think holistically about the implications of something like that. That doesn't mean I could read into the future, but it was becoming abundantly clear pretty quickly that this wasn't going to go away quickly. So, I don't know what to say about that except that, it was a tough one. It really was.
Yeah. So what's next for you guys? I mean, you said that you're not done. You're not done growing. It sounds like you've grown a little bit.
Yeah, we have. Year. I mean, we've had a really great past year other than trying to survive during a pandemic. I mean, we have 2 babies. It's just when we own our business together. So as you can imagine, like, it hasn't all been like rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah.
But that is also another reason why I'm glad that I have a partner in this. Like,
Sure.
Whether or not, I always say, like, go into business with someone. Doesn't have to be your husband.
Yeah.
But I would do that again and again and again, because it is, if you want to scale it all, and if you want to work with more people and do better work and do reliable work, you have to be set up to balance, right? Like, people need to be able to go on vacation. They need to be able to have a life.
Yeah.
So the balance that offers is, you have, in my opinion, you have to.
Right. I don't know how you guys do it, because we've talked about this. Sarah and I, she's my favorite person in the world. I love her more than anything in the world. 2 weeks into the pandemic, I thought we were going to kill each other. So I could not imagine working side by side every single day with the person that I'm married to. Does it come easy to you guys?
So, yeah, I don't know why it does, but I will say, like, we have challenging conversations,
Sure.
like anybody. I wouldn't deny that. But he's a really empathetic, understanding person, and I try to be too. So we come to things from a place of, like, we're on the same team. How are we going to get to the next place? I don't know what to say about that, except that, like, my kids, it's so funny because my kid, like, Grayson will say, like, I want to get married one day. And I'm like, do you? And I say that because I'm like, I don't know that you're going to get this lucky.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like, I'm,
it's not going to be this good, son.
No,
temper your expectations, young man.
But yeah, I'm really, like, I don't know. I think he's a very special person. I don't know that it would, like, for me, it would work with just anybody. Yeah. But, it works for us. And the thing about the business is, like, I've always been a believer that a marriage is a business. And it's not a pretty fun thing to think.
No, it's not.
It's not. But it is.
I see what you're saying. It makes good sense.
Yeah.
It has to have a good mission.
It's 10 times harder, in my opinion, and the risks are steeper and the repercussions are steeper, in my opinion, than a business is, because you've got assets, you've got, you're putting money into the same thing, and you're also responsible for making sure the other person's dreams come true. And or they're given the chance to go after them. And that's a lot, and you've got a lot of different people needing a lot of different things. At least with a business, you can say, we're going to meet here, and we're going to come to this space. No, like, yeah.
The stakes are high.
They are. People don't treat it that way.
Yeah.
But I've always been interested in our bottom line. And even when we had businesses, like when we were on our own and we were working at separate companies, I treated our finances that way. I treated our assets like that. And I don't think that was a mistake, because for me, like, you have to protect the magic, right? Like, you do want magic in a marriage. You want love in a marriage. But everything else around it, if you don't have it, that's why marriages fall apart.
Yeah. Dave Ramsey is a divisive character, but he, we did the thing when we first got married.
Yeah.
We did
I highly recommend it. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
But one thing that he said that I didn't know that would be such a good takeaway for me is that even after you have kids, your marriage is still a husband and wife's relationship is still the most important relationship in the family unit, because it's what everything else is built on. If your relationship with your wife is going shitty, your relationship with your kids is probably going to be next.
Yeah.
You got to have that thing solid in order to build on. It makes pretty good sense.
Yeah.
And that's not financial advice. That's marriage advice from the man.
Yeah, reliable marriage advice. Yeah. And it's, I definitely believe that.
Yeah.
How
do you guys though split it up? Like, how do you split the work side and the family home side? That sounds impossible to me.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just say, like, I've asked Grayson before, he knows no different than two parents who own and run a company together. And I'm like, that's interesting that he's always going to have that perspective. And sometimes you do have to step away and be like, Mom and Dad are going to talk about this for a second. We try to not do that. Right? Like, our family time is our family time. That's true for everybody. The thing about Matt is he's the first of three kids. So, oldest of three kids. I am too. And that means we're A personalities who like to lead. And for us, it's been it's always come natural to us to take turns. So if you care more, you win. If I care more, I win. And not about the decision. Like, I always want his opinion, but I'm going to lead out, right? And he's going to lead out on the thing he cares about most. Now, knowing that I want your perspective every time, and I'm never going to like do something in which I think I could gain value from your perspective, which is most things. So some of that comes naturally. The other thing I will say is, like, we will not always run businesses together necessarily.
This is a phase.
I mean, not necessarily. Like, yes and no. You know, like right now that works really well for us. I think when you're a young parent, you have to pick and choose wisely where you put your time. But when it comes to autonomy, no, I hope and pray for myself that we take endeavors and go after projects with other people. And as he does, I mean, that's the thing about our business is, like, we both have a team. They work well together. But it's an and everything. And I don't do this naturally, but my new goal in life, right? Like, what's gotten us over the past 2 years is, like, everything is an and. It may not be now, but it'll be later. It'll be like one door shuts. That doesn't mean it's closed forever. Same with this, like, we will not always run just one business together. That's not us, so hopefully he'll do other things. I may do other things. And I have no doubt that this company will keep growing. So
I have to ask the personal questions. Is there bleed into
our
home life?
marriage?
Yeah. From that's a question I have as if I'm just trying to put myself in that position.
I'm trying to think of a way, like, my quick answer
How do you delineate?
Right. I mean, you don't. I think that the best candid answer, transparent answer is that it doesn't always. Yeah. And that's okay with us. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that, with the caveat that there are many times when we're like, this is our family time. It is sacred. Nothing else can come into this. Sure. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes mistakes are made. It's about forgiveness. I heard one time, pre-forgive. If you can go about your life.
That sounds idealistic.
Right?
What is this?
It's not. I mean, it's not realistic. But if you can aim for it, that's starting from a good place. And I don't just mean with, like, Matt, my husband, or a business partner, but also with your team members, especially. Yeah. You know them less than your husband. You know them less than your business partner. You don't know what life experience they're coming at their work from. And everybody makes mistakes. I will continue to fail, but I will continue to look for ways to forgive. And what that means is you're going to make mistakes. And I have to be ready for that. I have to be ready to not write you off because mistakes were made.
Yeah, it sounds like setting reasonable expectations for any kind of relationship. You're going to be let down.
Yes. Yep.
But also compassion behind that.
Absolutely.
When it does happen.
Yep, that's a good way to say it. That's exactly right. Yeah. So, I mean, he does that well. And the balance for both of us, it's always like a very, very big goal that we talk well of people, even behind closed doors. Almost always. There are very rare exceptions to that.
I've never heard either of you say a negative thing about anything.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that I wouldn't. It doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes. It does happen. But then we're always saying, like, hey, how can we come back to a positive place? Because none of this is going to grow well if we're negative. And we can get into that just like anybody can. Nothing good normally comes of it, And I'm also a big, firm believer, like, the concept of, like, microexpressions and just
what's that?
That people show more than they realize in their faces.
Really?
Yes.
So you can...
Yes.
You can read people.
No, I can't read people.
Well, no, but you can read something about somebody by a little something in their face.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we want to be known as humans. Like, if I was to, like, summarize my perspective on it, it's that I think people are bad liars. I really do. And I really think that people want to be known. Right? See, I've been sitting here for an hour telling you all about myself. So, I just think people want to be known and they want to be seen. And I think that we are built through time to know and understand one another before we could even use language. So our faces tell far more than we realize. And if you start to think bad things, it's going to show up.
It's going to manifest.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I am the worst liar, the worst at covering something up.
Yeah.
Sam's pretty bad too.
Horrible.
Yeah. Everybody thinks they are, and they are. I mean, it's not a comfortable place to be.
No. And even with conflict, with me, the slightest bit of conflict is like, I can't hide this. I can't hide that this is upsetting me right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tough, man. Philanthropy?
Yes.
Are you doing some of that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, not a lot, but for the first time, we were able to give last year a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, and we chose Tennessee Theater, who we also do some work with. We do produce podcasts for them, but we're just really firm believers in their mission and in the beautiful theater they've created and a space to have artists come
Did you work
and do
with
their work.
Becky Hancock,
Matt
and Lila?
does, and Lila. I love Lila. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we gave to them, and we gave to CARM. Knoxville Area Rescue Ministries.
I had a guy from CARM on the show.
Did you?
Ryan Whitbeck.
Okay.
It's an amazing story.
Go back.
Go back and
I
listen.
binge on your podcast, and I'll go back and listen to him.
Check him out. I think he's in the 30s or 40s or something like that.
Yeah.
I think he was fantastic. I mean, that's an organization that's doing the right thing. They're helping people.
Yeah.
Can't win them all, but they come from the right place.
I mean, I think the world of them. I used to work for the Sentinel. I wrote for the Sentinel, and I did a story on a mom who was going through rehab there. Mm-hmm. So it's a personal reason why I support them. But I wrote the story, and I was there interviewing her, the mom who was going through rehab at the time, and then her son was there. And she told a story of basically pawning off everything to continue her drug habit. I mean, it was one of those it was very moving, and it was very... This little kid was, I know you've been out to CARM, but just to see a child there it's hard, And I'm so thankful for the services they give, but it's certainly not ideal, right? Like you want to have a kid in a home, and they do what they can to make that place feel like home. And just homelessness in general, I think is a really important place to give back to.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it's easy, especially around here, to get a little bit jaded with the panhandling and all that kind of stuff that happens, and I think a lot of people's frustration points at CARM a little bit. If we didn't have a mission so close to downtown,
I've heard that too.
I've heard it a lot from a lot of people. I was on the board of the 100 block of Gay Street, and you could kind of see the whole array of emotions that people had about dealing with homelessness and all that. But I will say that
blight, and I understand. Yeah.
When I probably about 10 years ago, I worked. It was CARM's, I think, 25th year anniversary or something like, or 25th anniversary, and we did a PSA for them, and
That's
there
cool.
It was cool, and there were a number of folks who told their story, the winners, the people that won this battle against homelessness and drug addiction was a big part of it, of course. But the stories were fascinating, and the fact that they had a place like that to support them, and like I said, their batting average isn't, they're not batting 1,000 with that kind of stuff. People relapse, people, get back on the street. I talked to when Ryan Whitbeck was here.
I can't wait to listen to this.
Listen to it. I mean, people get all the way up to the halfway house. They're almost back, and
so sad.
I know,
yeah.
and it's got to be, it's tough, and we're lucky to have a place like that who cares so much. About folks. And also, the batting average thing I mentioned, they have to be there. They have to be there for people when they need it. Even if they can't make a difference in every single person's life that comes through the door, they have to be there for people who, when they need a leg up, a hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget talking to a department about families who, at the time, it was a really cold winter, and when it gets cold outside, everybody, their numbers go up because there's nowhere else to turn to. But I had spoken to somebody who was like, the families are it was the recession too at the time, and this is a long time ago, and that was a really tough time financially for people, but families were actually going up into the hills and setting up campsites and staying out there because they don't
Sharps
want...
Ridge?
I don't know. I don't remember where they said it was, probably. But they were hiding it because once you declare that you don't have a place to live, I think it just increases risk around the family unit and putting somebody somewhere. They want to stay together. So that was happening, and it was just, I also learned during that time that a lot of our homeless population is a result of a failed foster care system.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes, absolutely.
Foster care is kind of weird, right? Like there's some bad apples in that group, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think first of all, if you are a kind, loving family who is the right side of that, like I can't even imagine. Like I have the most.
God bless you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I mean that is just like, it's amazing. But a lot of it is kids moving from place to place.
Yep.
and some of it, they can absolutely have some abusive aspect of that. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but at the time there was a study. This is going to date me, because if anybody wants to look back at it, it'll be really dated. But at the time, the UT had done a study that showed that, I want to say, like between 30 and 40%, maybe even higher, were a result of, they came out of the foster care system.
Really?
And there's mental illness that is associated
Sure.
with abuse. There's mental illness associated with like not having security and consistency. But that, I'm always interested in, like, let's go back to the root cause. And I don't know enough about these topics to, speak as eloquently as I might want. But I would say that if our philanthropy work were to go anywhere, I would hope it will deepen in that area, because it's important.
It sounds like a good, worthy cause, a good place to, if you got a little extra.
Yeah.
Do your giving.
Yeah, and I started my career in nonprofit work, and I always thought, I'll end it there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Bookend it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's my goal, like that, or that's always been my vision. I don't know when that will happen, but not anytime soon. And in the meantime, I'm thankful that we have a resource to serve those nonprofits.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got something where, if you guys have some time, some resources to throw at it, you don't have to hit them with the invoice when it's over.
That's right.
Yeah. Do some pro bono work.
I bet y'all do that.
We do a lot of it.
Yeah. I know Design Sensory does too. I've been on the beneficiary side of that through a nonprofit called Rachel's Lament, and they put together an entire brand ecosystem for them. It was just,
nice.
It is incredible what you can do as a content creator for these nonprofits. Yeah.
Absolutely. What have we missed? We got some highlights in there.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you seen the first cut of the Peak Physique Kickstart video?
Okay, I think it's amazing.
You do?
Yes! Y'all are so good. You're so good. I loved it. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well,
that was really exciting.
Last time you were here, we hadn't shot it yet, or we hadn't cut it yet. I forget, but now it's out there. It's well, it's
Is it,
well
it's
on
not
its
done
way.
though,
No,
right?
it's not done yet.
Okay.
We need some notes from you guys.
The very first.
Will you give us some notes on it? Will you tell us what we should do better?
I mean, I don't have any notes, but I'm sure Matt will share his.
His thoughts. I'm excited to get it out there. I want to have he and Will both back on the show when the video comes out.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
We've been working on it for almost a year. I mean, we really did start it right after the pandemic.
It been that long?
It's been that long since we started talking about it.
Yeah, but once y'all started, it's like y'all are quick. You're good.
Yeah, we got busy there after the first wave of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we couldn't keep moving the ball down the field on that.
It's a very
project.
challenging time.
It was.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. And also, I didn't think about it until you were talking about, Matt, and some of the music that you guys made starting out. The music for this podcast you guys made.
Did he? Okay, I think I remember him saying that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love the music.
Do you?
Yeah.
At the end of every episode, I
do.
say, Matt Honkonen, play me out.
I've heard you. It's
now I'm going to say,
so nice.
Pitchwire, play me
Love
out. Should I do that?
That's amazing.
I think I should do that because I
Yeah.
guess I didn't realize how much of the music side that you had a part in. So
works together. Yeah.
It does.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for coming, and thanks for doing this.
Keep doing this. I adore it. I just can't say enough good things. You know that.
Thank you very much. It's kind of you to say, and
I love it.
Send somebody our way.
Oh yeah,
That's
I will.
Every guest that comes on the show has to send somebody else.
Yeah, you should have. I mean, I've already thought like Christina Honkonen would be really good. I've got other names.
I'm
too.
down.
Yeah.
Group text it up.
I will.
Introduce us.
I absolutely will. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, we'll do it again in a little while when some more time has passed.
I
we
think
got some
that'd
more
be
stuff
awesome.
to talk
See
about.
where we head, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christina.